Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all flesh and blood appropriate ages. It is time for another edition of The Stack. I've brought on board a small portion of the Flesh and Pod podcast, one Jordan Kennedy, who is fresh off of a Salty Logs performance. Welcome, Jordan.
Hey, Flake, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Are you? You don't sound excited.
What? This is what you get after a work day from this. Is as excited as I get post 5 p.m. So
it's one of those moves where, like, after, I was the same way. It's like after a day, it's just like, all right, I'm on the couch, I'm changed, the pizza rolls are in the oven, I'm
exactly.
Bliss occurs in 15 minutes from now. So I feel you.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to be playing another edition of The Stack, and basically, for those who are unaware, I'm going to be throwing 9 statements at one Jordan Kennedy, and he's going to say, hey, that resolves, as in, yeah, we're going to double down on an 11 here with the dealer showing 6 every day of the week. Or he's going to say, fizzles, let's split these 4s. How about that? Let's split these 4s. I think that's what we're talking about here. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. Let's go.
Okay. There's going to clearly be some sort of gambling degenerate theme going on here, but the statement number 1, Jordan, is aim counters, which have recently been referenced in the new Dynasty spoilers, will deny equipment blocks. Now, this is from Tommy Fresh. He inspired me for this one.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to say that fizzles, but only to the extent that I don't think it'll be that specific or like that specific thing. I do think it'll interfere with the way we block the arrows.
All right, I like it. Again, Dynasty spoilers are slowly leaking through. A lot of Marvel equipment and cards are being shown, which they're all beautiful. But
They're beautiful.
They're great. They are absolutely just spot on, and I'm excited that I'm going to be spending a lot of money on this. When I said I'm like another supplemental, I'm not going to spend money. We're spending money. Sandscour Bow will make Azalea a competitive option.
Fizzles. Again, to the extent that it won't do it by itself. I think Azalea will get some more support in the set, though, and it will make it competitive.
Okay, but off the back of this bow, potentially, or are you thinking that the bow is just not even a factor?
Oh, sure. So, like, the bow will be a substantial part of it. Sure. But if she gets, like, no other pieces that are good, I don't think she'll be viable. Like, the bow isn't enough by itself, but I think the bow will be a substantial factor.
All right, so it's like a fizzle 0.5, we'll say.
Yeah, this is like the most miserable it depends answers that I've given on 2 of your questions. I
Yeah,
don't think
thank
I
you for
understand
that.
the game very well.
We'll call this re-sizzle. It resolves and fizzles. Thank you for that. Dynasty should release ahead of World Championships.
Resolves. I think it would be fantastic to see the best players in the world experiment with the new cards in the set. That being said, I guess this meta is wide open, so we're not going to lack a good meta at Worlds. But it would be cool to see the new cards played right away at the highest level the game has ever had.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I kind of said how this should go is that, like, a month ahead of Pro Tour should be the draftable sets of each Pro Tour. Give it about 6 weeks ahead. And then, like, a month ahead of Worlds, you drop the supplemental. That way, there's always a new meta that's being reshaped. And really, it's going to test the capabilities of the players, not just on what they're familiar with, but how they, reconcile new cards and new options. I think that's just part of it, but something in the back of my mind that is partially David Root is telling me that I think that this may have been a situation of they wanted to put it ahead of Worlds, but like a lot of delays occurred. That seems like the right medicine, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think other card games have done this, where right before a premier tournament they release their next flagship set for that quarter. And it definitely makes the event more exciting. Oh, like this card that we thought sucked got broken by a Michael Hamilton or a Michael Fang or whatever. And now this card spikes in value and you get to play it at your local armory the very next week because you follow the tournament, and that's very exciting to do. Distribution industry, or the logistics industry worldwide, is a disaster right now, so it wouldn't surprise me if that was the issue and they had to delay it. Unfortunate for sure that we're still feeling effects of COVID pandemic stuff, but I saw David's tweet on that and I instantly thought like that makes the most sense, because there's no way that they want to have this big premiere event where they could shove Dynasty stuff down your throat and then not release it on time. So that I would agree with David there.
Fi versus Dromai life total point spread is Fi at -9.5.
It's Fi at -9.5. Yeah, I think that resolves. I would probably jam Fi at -9.5 if I had to. I know that's not a resolve, but I resolve that that's a good line, I think.
Yeah, I didn't know how to properly word this one, but
if you're the house and you're asking me to audit your house line, I think that's a good line. But I think I jam Fi at -9.5.
for sure, all day long. I asked some people, I said, what's the most lopsided, matchups here? And this was one of them that came up. The other one was anything against Azalea. So I was like, all right. Okay. Competitive Flesh and Blood should spotlight the players more heavily.
Oh, interesting. I think resolves, and I know that puts a harder burden on you guys in the casting booth to build those storylines and flesh them out, and that's not necessarily as easy as just like, here's the game we're watching. But something like this Goliath Gauntlet tournament that you have coming up, I think is really cool because you get to focus on like just a small pool of players that come in, not necessarily any randoms that could appear on camera through like a hot streak. So it's very easy to build the storylines. People attach their emotions to, I think, people better than they do like abstract concepts like a game. Knowing that I'm a Michael Hamilton fan, or like I want to see how Hayden Dale tackles his first round matchup in this tournament, makes it more exciting than what deck he brings or whatever. And I think other sports leagues or other sports have done that very well, where like, NFL F1, stuff like that. But like esports as a whole kind of suffers from drawing out those storylines, and I would love to see the industry move towards that.
I agree. And like you say that it might be difficult for us. The storylines exist. So I dig into those real hard. There's histories between the players now. There's the background that you can dig into, and I'm always very, in tune with that kind of stuff, being part of the community and just being fascinated by it. Now, whether the players themselves want to be, like, the hardest thing in Flesh and Blood is beating Isaac Root. The second hardest thing is interviewing Isaac Root. Like, those are the two things.
Sure. I think a lot of like it was a Tarek Patel and Michael Fang back in 2021 had their like the calling championship, and then Tarek takes them down in the national championship like the very next month or whatever. Like the fact that they can meet in this Goliath Gauntlet tournament is crazy, because like then you get to build on the storyline of like Tarek, Canadian champion, last time he played Michael took him home. Like, oh my god, that's so fantastic. But I guess you do run into the issue of like, as card players, we're naturally not spotlighty people. A couple of us are sociopaths and like making content and being on camera, but like, or narcissistic enough, I should say. A lot of us aren't, and so that is definitely challenging. I find it easier to talk about the game as it's happening than like weave the storylines in. But like you say, the storylines do exist now, and I guess after 3 years we have the background to go for it. So that's pretty awesome.
You like dice, so we're gonna.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna go here. Look, for the record, I keep painting you as some degenerate gambler, but you're
It's fair.
Well, okay, I wasn't gonna. All right, here we go. Some games are decided by the initial dice roll.
Resolves based on the wording of your question that some games do. The amount of games that is vastly lower than what people say or what they talk about, but yes, resolves that some games are decided by the dice roll.
It's just fascinating to me because we came off of so many formats where Uprising Draft was part of the Swiss, and whenever you're asking people like, oh, how'd it go? And they'll be like, well, I lost the dice roll in a 5 mirror, and then they don't tell you the result. And you're like, I guess it was a dice roll. Like,
Did you lose? Yeah.
I guess. Like, that's essentially where that comes down to. And yeah, I mean, so it may feel that way sometimes. I've been told that before after beating somebody. It's like, well, you won the dice roll. I'm like, okay, and the follow-up 40 minutes of gameplay had nothing to do with it. No problem, but okay.
Right.
No worries. All right, here's one. The 1 in 10,000 pack Marvel Emperor will sell for over $5,000.
Resolves. I know nothing about card markets, but that number of 1 in 10K sounds so unfathomable. The first like 3 have to fetch crazy prices, right? So I'm gonna say resolves. I hope it's me that opens one, because that thing will hit eBay quicker than I can blink. But yeah, I'm gonna say resolves.
Yeah, and that's part of it. I remember when the Tales of Aria release event came out, the first person who cracked one of those cold foil Korshems, one of the vendors immediately bought it and put it on sale for like $4,000. And now you can get it. You can trade an Alpha Rampage and like a, stalagmite for it. So it's not even a big deal. All right, I like doing these. This one's for you. Margot Robbie as Dorinthia is good casting.
Is Margot Robbie, she's the one that was the Wolf of Wall Street wife, right?
Wolf of Wall Street. She was also Harley Quinn.
She was Harley Quinn. She'd be a good Dorinthia. Only because this is actually at the top of my mind, I'm going to say Fizzles. Whoever's currently playing Galadriel or whatever.
Galadriel was the one I wanted to use, but I thought that was cheating because she's basically a very similar character, an armored warrior with a sword, and I thought that would be way too easy. But I do not know her name, and it really upsets me because she is crushing it as Galadriel.
No, Margot Robbie would be good casting. So I guess it resolves to your statement, but only second place to Morfred Clark.
Icelander is the best deck in Classic Constructed.
Fizzles, there's no best deck in Classic.
That's a good answer. That is a good answer, which is amazing because last week on the stack we had Logan, and I said there is no best deck, and he resolved that. I think it was him. Was it him? It was him. It was one of you. But you're here.
So it wasn't me. So
yeah, process of elimination. See, I could be a lawyer easily.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, there you go. Done.
Jordan, it is a pleasure in all ways, shapes, and forms to just chat with you about anything. And the fact that you're on the stack makes me happy. Thanks so much for being a part of the show.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I had a good time.
Where can people find the Flesh and Pod as well as more Jordan Kennedy?
Yeah, you can find Flesh and Pod. We release podcasts every Tuesday to wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. If you're a Zoomer, you can find more of me on Twitter at I'm Jerman. That's IMJORMAN. It was my screen name when I was 10, and I haven't changed it. So I tweet a lot of Flesh and Blood there, a lot of sports, a lot of gambling stuff, a lot of just nonsense. So I would love to chat with people.
Sounds good. All right, friends, don't forget you're not losing if you're learning. We'll catch you next time on another episode of The Stack. The Stack is brought to you by Realm Gaming in Mansfield, Ohio, a wonderful place to get your Flesh and Blood fix, but not just that, they also specialize in Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. So if that's where you need to be to get your card fix, that's the place you want to go. RealmGamingNetwork.com. Keith and Jacob, who run the place, are developing a wonderful community of fun and inclusivity. They are also the ones who put on that magnificent 10K out in Ohio. So if you want to get a good fix on cards or just play the game, if you're in the Ohio region, you want to go to Realm Gaming. RealmGamingNetwork.com.